everybody, this is Mr. Warner. We're doing Unit 9. Okay, so I added this new unit, that's why it's the 9.0. This is one of the basics of factoring, and this will really help you when we get into our next units, our next lessons, okay? So if you can get this, that would be fantastic. This unit, we're going to learn how to factor trinomials, quadratic trinomials that look something like this. All right, something that we may still need to take out the greatest common factor, so don't forget how to do that. But this will be a little different than something that we've come around in the past. Okay, so let's start by doing this little game. In class, we may go over or do this game in class. I think the plan is that we'll actually do it another day. But hopefully, either way, you'll be able to do these types of puzzles, okay? So the plan here is we want to find two numbers, maybe number 8, oops, change that again. These two numbers that can multiply to give us 32, and the same number that adds up to give us 12. Okay, so if you would, give this a try. It's just a little puzzle, see if you can find it. Just again, these two numbers that we have here and here, those need to be the same. So whatever the two numbers you get to multiply to give us 32 has also be the same numbers that add up to give us 12. All right, so hopefully you give this a pause and give it a try. All right, so the idea here is, one thing is if you get stuck, a good thing to do is to write down factor pairs. So write down all the pairs of numbers that multiply to give us 32. All right, so for example, we could start with 1, and that would be 1 and 32. And then we could try 2. Does 2 go into 32? Yes, it does. It goes in 16 times. We could try 3, but 3 doesn't go in. We could try 4 and 8, that works. We could try 5, but that doesn't go in. We could try 6, that doesn't go in, and 7, that doesn't go in. So really, usually when I do it, I will just write the ones that do work, and those are my factor pairs. Now we want to look at those and see which of those could we use to add to give us 12. So if we changed all of those to like addition, that ends up giving us 33. That's not what we want. 2 plus 16, well, that gives you 18. That's not what we want. And then we've got 4 and 8. That gives us 12. That's exactly what we want. So 4 times 8 gives us 32. And 4 plus 8 gives us 12. Okay, so for your answers, I would have you write your answer something like this, 4 and 8, okay? Some other people just do like 4, 8. Some people do like 4 and an plus or and sign, something like that. As long as you do something like that, that's good. I don't want your answer to be something like that. I want you to have them kind of separate. Okay? All right. So the game, you don't really need to worry about this, but the strategies are really important. And we'll talk about the strategies at the end. So let's try and do these 6 problems. Pause now and see how many you can do. Note that D, E, and F, these ones are a little different than what we've done above. So if you need to pause and practice or watch the video for D and E or F, then give that a try. All right, so hopefully you gave this a try. Again, what I would suggest is to write down factor pairs for 15. So things that multiply to give us 15. 1 and 15. Again, students oftentimes forget 1, probably because most of the time we don't multiply things by 1. So we have 1 and 15, and then we also have 3 and 5. 2 doesn't go into 15, 4 doesn't go into 15, and then we're already back to 5. So once you get to that number that's already here, then we've found all of the pairs. Okay? So now we need to figure out which of those will add up to give us 8. And it would have to be the 3 and the 5, and that gives you 8. So 3 and 5 for these, and we would get 3, oops. Our answer would be 3 and 5. The order that you write those down, if you did 5 and 3, that doesn't matter. All right, here's another one. Pause and give that a try if you haven't done it yet. So for 18, we could do 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, 4 doesn't go in, 5 doesn't go in, and then we're back to 6. So we already have that. So those are our pairs. Now we need to figure out which one would make that work. So 1 plus 18, well, that would give you 19. 2 plus 9, that gives you 11. So that's what we want. So our answer here would be 2 and 9. Okay? On your homework, I won't have these for you. I'll just tell you that those are the things that we multiply, and those are the things that add. You don't need to do that, but you're welcome to if you want. Okay, factor pairs for 6. We got 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. And then next we'd have 3, which we already have, so we're good. And then which one would give us 5? Well, that would be 2 and 3. 2 times 3 gives you 6. 2 plus 3 gives you 5. All right, so these ones are a little different because now we have negatives. Ugh. Okay, but still we want to do the same sort of thing. I would start by writing down your factor pairs. Don't worry about the signs yet. So for 3, we've got 1 and 3. That's the only factor pair for 3. Okay, so now we just need to figure out what sign we want them to be. Okay, if the two things multiply to give us negative, then we know that at least one of them is going to be negative and one is going to be positive. Because a negative times a positive will give us a negative, right? If they were both negative, a negative times a negative, that would give us a positive. And if it was a positive times a positive, we would still get a positive. So we know that one of these numbers has to be negative. Okay, so you could just kind of guess. We could say, well, what if we did negative 1? Negative 1 plus, or multiplied by 3. Maybe we can get rid of that. Plus 3. I didn't mean to do a positive. 3. Okay, so negative 1 times 3. That does give us negative 3. But if we did negative 1 plus 3, that would give us a positive 2. And that's not what we want. So we want to change those signs. Okay. And we'd want to maybe do a negative 3 times 1. And a negative 3 plus 1, that would give you negative 2. So if what's being multiplied gives us a negative, again, one of them is going to be negative. And you just need to figure out which one is going to make it work so that our sign here will turn out. So here we do negative 3 and 1. Okay. All right, give E a try. It's similar. So if you did D, you should be able to do E. Okay, so things that multiply to give us 15. Again, we're not going to worry about the sign for now. We could do 1 and 15. 2 doesn't go into it. We got 3 and 5. And then we've got 4 doesn't work. And then we're back to 5. So those are our choices. Okay, again, it's being multiplied and it gives you a negative. So if you multiply two things and you get a negative, one of them has to be negative and the other has to be positive. So 1 and 15, that could work. Yep, I just crossed that off, and then we'll think about that, and I think that would work. So look at that. If we did 1, or we did 15 and 1, which one needs to be negative? Well, it looks like then 15 would need to be negative. to end up giving us a negative 14. Okay, so our answer here would be negative 15 and 1. All right, in the last example, so we want things that multiply to give us a negative 20. So again, we'll just write down factor pairs for 20. 2 and 10. 3 doesn't go in. 4 goes in 5 times. And then next would be 5, but we already have 5. So those are our choices. Which of those could possibly give us 8? And again, since they're being multiplied and you get a negative, one of these has got to be negative. Okay? So you could do 1 minus 20 or 20 minus 1, but that gives you like 19, and we don't want 19. What about 2 and 10? I think that could possibly work, like a negative 2 and a positive 10. That gives you a positive 8. So we'd do negative 2 and 10. Okay, so again, this is just like a puzzle. One thing, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but when you do these factor pairs, there's only one possible answer. It's not like you have 2 different possible answers. There's always just one. So you just need to figure out which one would make that work. Another thing too is maybe a good idea to write down on your homework to do this kind of thing and make sure you check it and make sure that's what you get. So you shouldn't ever get something wrong if you check it by, multiplying the 2 things and combining those 2 things. One other thing, I don't think I actually did one like this. Maybe we should do that, okay? Let's do another one. Let's find 2 things that multiply to give us, let's do 14, and add to give us negative 9. Okay? So again, if you have 2 things and they give you a positive, then either they've both got to be positive or they both got to be negative. So a negative times a negative gives you a positive. Okay? Since this is negative, what adds 2 is negative, then we've got to have 2 negative numbers. If we write down our factor pairs, we'd want to do something like 1 and 14 or 2 and 7. Looks like the only thing that would give you 9 would be 2 and 7, but we need to make sure we have our signs. So to combine to give us a negative 9, it would have to be a negative 2 and a negative 7. One thing is that these additions, you can add a negative. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that's confusing to you, you're welcome to just leave those, and you could do like negative 2 minus 7. Okay? But again, I feel like it's important to be able to realize that those are our 2 numbers, would be negative 2 and a negative 7. Okay? So make sure you get that. That one's a little different. Okay? All right. And that's about it. So you'll go to your homework.